it's not easy to develop a project. It takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of skill. I mean, you're not just guessing on rental rates and guessing on costs.
The majority of people trade time for money in the hopes of building wealth. I'm here to tell you that the traditional methods don't cut it anymore. Welcome to the Passive Income Power Podcast. My name is Doug Earthman. My partner Mickey Bernstein and I are going to dive deep into the power that passive income can have on your quality of life. We're going to discuss alternative assets, strategies, and insights through interviews with the very people who have found freedom through their power. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Passive Income Power Podcast. Thank you for tuning in to the Passive Income Power Podcast. My name is Doug Earthman.
And I'm Mickey Bernstein.
We've got Jonathan Auer here today, who's become a pretty good friend of mine over the past few years. We met through mutual friends and real estate opportunities and have stayed connected through our hunger for real estate and drive to make Memphis a better place. He is one of the founders of Jones Auer, which is a commercial real estate brokerage in Memphis, Tennessee. And as of last week, they're in Arkansas.
Cool. And Jonathan, we're really honored to have you here with us tonight. And I understand you were born in Memphis and went to the University of Incarnate Word in San Antonio, Texas, and then started a career in real estate working for Cushman and Wakefield, very well known in San Antonio, where you focused on multifamily, and then moved to Memphis and worked for Boyle Investment Company. And we got a lot of connections there too, overseeing their retail portfolio. And about a year and a half ago, Jonathan and his partner, Dustin Jones, formed Jones Auer Commercial Real Estate, which is a local Memphis brokerage.
Did we get it all right, Jonathan?
That's perfect.
Can you fill in any of the gaps? Let us know, a little bit about yourself.
Sure.
And your history.
Sure. Yeah. So born in Memphis. Family, we moved to Missouri for a little while, and then college in San Antonio, and then back to Memphis. And the reason for coming back was Boyle Investment Company reached out, and when Boyle calls, you answer and you listen. And so I did, and super thankful for that opportunity. We still are fortunate enough to be working with Boyle Investment Company on all their retail assets and their retail portfolio, just in a little bit different capacity because it's us. So, yeah.
And at one, you recently told me you spent some time in Brazil.
Spent between high school and college. I lived for a year in Brazil, in Salvador, wow, which is in the Northeast. Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah.
Very cool.
So no real estate there.
Yeah.
Not for me. So, anyway.
So Jonathan, tell our audience why you wanted to start Jones Auer and what your goals are.
Sure. Yeah. So Dustin Jones, my partner, and I had talked for a while about what we thought each other could, or what we thought we could do together as a team for our city and as a company. And one thing led to another, and it just made more and more sense. And our kind of our unifying goal and the platform of everything is, if you look at Cushman, which is where I was, or CBRE, or Shopping Center Group, or Colliers, or the list goes on. They're in Memphis and they do great things for the city, but ultimately, HQ is somewhere else. And so it's about production and production and production. And while there's incredible individuals at all those companies, we wanted a company that is first and foremost Memphis. And how can we do deals in real estate, or how can we do real estate deals to better our city, right? We want to make money. We all want to do well and be successful, but it's twofold. And so we thought by combining forces with our existing portfolios, with our vision and with our drive, we thought we could do, not I want to say a better job, but we thought we could do a really great job for our city together. So that was kind of the impetus for joining forces, and I'd say so far so good.
How did you meet Dustin?
I mean, we're direct competitors. As far as retail real estate goes, I mean, he was probably my biggest competitor. He kind of ran he ran landlord services for Shopping Center Group here in Memphis, and I was running the Boyle retail portfolio, which is huge. And so most of everything I didn't have, he had, and vice versa. And so and we went head to head, but it was a friendly competition. Kind of we're able to look past that just because of our strong relationship and a lot of commonalities. So yeah.
And he didn't get his start in real estate, is that right? He was more of in the restaurant industry.
Yeah, so he was the managing portion of the ownership group for Swanky's and Sheffy's, and he was with them. Gosh, I don't know. I want to say 15 years, but maybe not quite, but it was a long time. And he joined Shopping Center Group around the same time I joined Boyle Investment Company. So, another commonality where we were kind of coming into the Memphis market together.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. It's been a great ride so far.
So y'all started out with a focus in retail, but have expanded from there, correct?
Right. From a brokerage standpoint, Dustin and I are really, I mean, we do retail. That's our bread and butter. And that's what we believe that we're really good at that. We need to stay in that lane. We built a huge retail team to help us with that brokerage, whether it's investment sales or leasing or, some form of development. But then also I built a really great office industrial team. That's what they focus on, asset management, kind of, everything in between. So, but from a development and investment standpoint, we don't care what it is, right? If it makes sense and we can make sense of the numbers, we'll, and we, the partnership makes sense, we're in on it. So
does, retail right now, how is it doing? Is it strong? 'Cause I know, one thing that we try to focus on for our investors is recession resistant assets, and,
sure.
Commercial, retail type stuff is a little, we're a little hesitant about it.
Right.
So what do you have to say? Like, what is the market like right now?
Sure. Yeah. And that's fair. I would say it depends on the asset. Let me rephrase that. The type of retail asset, right? So if you have a neighborhood shopping center in a fairly strong trade area, you're always going to be strong, right? If you have 60 to 70 foot, 75 foot deep bays with 20 foot storefronts, like you can lease that all day long, regardless of what's going on in the economy, because they're easy to build out, they're easy to lease, they're easy to, it's a manageable square footage from a sales standpoint for the tenant. The iterations that you can do with that, whether it's 1,200 or 2,400, it makes it very manageable to expand and contract with turnover. And so, if you go after that, it's really hard to miss. In Memphis as a whole, if you look at our retail market, we're sub 4% vacant, which is pretty astonishing. Yeah. And a lot of that's a testament to our retailers doing really well here. So our sales, if you look at our sales metrics, I mean, we do really well when comparing our sales to, similar or really any market across the country. And so there's a lot of longevity. We also have really great local retailers. So we're really blessed in that regard. And so, and we haven't overbuilt. And that actually is a hindrance a little bit because we don't have enough product to bring other retailers here. So when we do have new product come online, I mean, it regardless of the price, it leases incredibly quickly. Leases faster than we build it. So Schilling Farms, Williamsburg Village, 2 projects we're working on are testaments to that. I mean, we have not even delivered one of the 2 buildings at Schilling Farms, and we're working on our 4th lease out there. So big rents, $40 plus a foot, 10-year deals. I mean, it's
wow,
pretty incredible. Same thing at Williamsburg. So at Poplar and Mendenhall. So yeah,
why wouldn't it seems like Class A in the Poplar corridor would be a cash cow, like building right
sure.
now. So why aren't there more people doing that?
Where's the land?
Yeah.
I
mean, infill, like tear stuff down and build.
Yeah. And I think we're going to see more and more of that happening. Poplar and Mendenhall is a perfect example of that. We just, Poplar real estate's really expensive. And if you own it, you're not going to sell it. And so you're kind of you're in this dilemma where owners have owned it forever. They really don't want to put more money into it. They really don't have to. Their basis is zero. So if they go sell it, I mean, it's a huge taxable event. And so, it's kind of a conundrum that we're stuck in. That being said, I mean, any opportunity that there is to redevelop or bring new life into retail, it's being done on that Poplar corridor. Really, if you think about what's been going on all the way from the Poplar Viaduct going into Midtown all the way east, right? I mean, you have the Xfinity building that they just did and kind of that goofy access all the way east. So, and then when you take that switch over to Midtown, I mean, Union, same thing. You have the retail play that's going on at the hotel at the old police station. You have the Citizen that went up. You have all the kind of that redeveloped stuff near Cooper and Union. So anyway, it's going to take some time because of these owners that have owned the assets for so long. So as they turn, it'll happen, but it takes money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's really interesting. And I've already learned some things I did not know. So I thank you for that. Let's shift gears for just a moment. You obviously have a deep sense of altruism and a love for the city and want to make it a better place. And where did all that come from? Tell us your story about that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so obviously born in Memphis. I mean, I guess to take a step back. So my family, my dad, my father, his siblings, they were all born in Brazil. My grandfather came here in the 60s to help start St. Jude. He was the first hematologist oncologist at St. Jude. So back when it was nothing. And so, I mean, for a long time, Memphis has embraced my family, and my family's fallen in love with the city. Now going, 3 generations. And so there's kind of that deep-seated love already. But, Memphis has provided me a lot of incredible opportunities. Starting from growing up here, making great friends, being around family, being part of a passionate city, to coming back, being at Boyle Investment Company and being able to see the passion, the drive that everyone puts into the city. And it's really easy once you get here and you're involved and invested in the city, not just financially, but time or philanthropy or whatever, to realize that we're really lucky that we get a direct return on what we put into our city. It's a very giving city. And so it allows people to really make their mark or leave their mark on the city. And you don't find that in most other markets our size. And so it's really hard not to fall in love with the city and be excited about what you can do for it. Because a lot of people work really hard in a lot of cities for their communities and don't necessarily see the impact that they're able to leave. And so it's exciting. It's hard not to be excited about that.
Yeah. There's a certain stigma that comes with real estate and development that is like, people are just in it, and there are those people that are in it for just the money and greed and tearing down old landmarks and putting their fancy new stuff up, and it isn't. That's a common misconception. It's like there's real estate development, what you do as a broker and leasing, it really helps rejuvenate cities and really helps to provide the meet the needs of people moving into town, which is the goal of every city, is retention of people and retention or have people come in. I remember when I left for school when I was 18, went to college at Ole Miss, and afterwards it was like I did not want to come back to Memphis. I was like, I'm never going back. Moved to Nashville for a little while and then came back to Memphis, what I thought was temporary, but the city had started going through a change. And it was when Overton Square got redeveloped. And that was really what I think started it all here. It was, it finally had this strip and bar scene that, everyone could go gather at, and it made it a youthful, fun place. And it was from then on that I started seeing more and more retention of young professionals here.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, it's a retention, and it's also that initial sale, right? Like, we have incredible companies in the city that pull from all over the world. I mean, literally, St. Jude, we already talked about FedEx, International Paper, AutoZone. I mean, the list goes on, and that's just very high level. And so the job opportunities are there. And so it's like, we can get them here. But like, how do we sell them in those 48 hours that they're in our city, and make them fall in love with our city and realize that they can start a life here? And Overton Square is a perfect example of that. You drop somebody at the Memphian now, put them there for the weekend. They walk next door to Porch and Parlor, live music next door at Lafayette, dessert at Sweet Noshins. I mean, the list goes on. Sit at the bar at Iris or Panta. I mean, and that's within one block, right? Not to mention if you go into Cooper Young and the vibrancy there. And so, or put them on South Main at the Arrive Hotel. And so we've finally, like, even when you came back, we didn't have any of those hotels. Central Station, Arrive, the Memphian. I mean, so the Hilton Garden Inn, even, the Canopy, whatever. I mean, you had none of that stuff. So it was like, you could say the Peabody or what, right? And so, like, we've now built this really great infrastructure of, like, we can hard sell people on the city and what it has. So, before we retain them and keep them here for the rest of their lives or 10 years or whatever it ends up being, like, we didn't have that sales power. And now we do. I mean, we have people come into town all the time, and it's incredible to listen to their reactions about our city. We had a good friend who works as part of the X Team network with us. He brought his daughters and his parents this past weekend, actually, in Memphis, and they stayed at the Memphian. They did all the cool things, and he lives in Houston, and it was just he just kept raving about the hospitality, which you can't replicate. The food, he went to the Civil Rights Museum, he went to Sun Studio and Graceland, Porch and Parlor. But he was here 48 hours, fell in love with the city, and raved about it. And that's, we need more, right? We're not there yet, but, where we can slow down, but man, it's a whole lot easier to do it now than it was 15 years ago. So
sure. And anyway. Then we have Blue Oval coming in right down the Interstate 40, which, that's another behemoth that will drive a lot of people to this area.
Yeah.
So
that'll be another perfect example of, we've got the company, we have the jobs.
Yep.
Now we have to sell the individuals on taking those jobs. So I think we're poised to do it. We have some things to figure out, but we're figuring it out, I think.
Yeah.
One development at a time. But to your point, you brought up the stigma of, like, it's all about the money, and it's all about, just deal. And there are a lot of, one of the other great things about our cities, in a lot of cities that is the case, but in our city, I mean, yeah, you can make great money in commercial real estate, but, like, we have some developers, most of our developers, really, I can't think of any that aren't, and are really intentional about doing the best development they can. not just financially, but for the city.
Right.
And how, and really incurring costs they don't have to incur to kind of withstand the, the next foreseeable 50 years. They're really timeless, tasteful developments that are happening. So I won't knock on our sister city, Nashville, that, every building is the same glass looking building, and every townhome is a tall and skinny. That's all, hardy plank that, anyway, I digress. We have a great city. So,
So one of the ways we met, Jonathan, was, it was how Mickey and I both met you the first time. Was you had a private real estate offering that you went over with us, which that was actually the first private real estate offering I had ever seen. And that memorandum, that investor deck, was really what spurred a lot of my ideas moving forward on creating 2D investments. I had really no idea that this world of syndications and offerings existed. And I took that and was like, this is unbelievable. And then I started getting more opportunities and more. And I realized there was this big world out there that people just didn't know about.
Right.
One of the things I really realized is, not anyone, but people can invest in their city without being a developer. You can actually be part of some of these developments that are going on and have a little piece of ownership in it. And I thought that was so neat. And that's really what drove me to look into forming 2D investments.
Yeah.
So, can you explain to everyone how their investment can actually help the city?
Yeah. Most people are not developers. And so that's key for people to remember is it's not easy to develop a project. It takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of skill. You're just guessing on rental rates and guessing on costs, and most people can't source unique deals that allow for a return to be made on land, right? Like the land that you're talking about was an off-market deal, and the only reason we were able to make sense of that is because we got in on it early. But there's always ways to invest a little bit of capital in those offerings, and there's still risk involved with that, right? Obviously, your risk is generally capped at whatever that investment is. You may not get it back, but the hope is that you make a great return. The bigger hope is that you can kind of compound that investment, right? And in doing so, you're part of a really great project that happens in the city. Now also, not everybody gets the opportunity to look at an offering, right? And so there is a little bit of maybe not luck, but you have to work hard to get yourself in the right groups where you can, have access to those offerings. But if you do, it's a really great way to build your involvement in the community, and an even better way to build your net worth in a passive way, right? You have your retirements, your 401ks, your brokerage accounts, but to be able to invest in something tangible in that regard, I know it's all tangible, but you get my point, tangible in that regard, and to let it just compound. That's a really beautiful thing. So you throw $20,000 in, 18 months later, you get, 40, 60,000 out, and you get that, and you roll it back into the next thing. Or maybe that same group has an offering where they can, you roll the whole tranche in. And before you know it, you're investing hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars into assets. Maybe, by this point, several assets, a bunch of assets. And the money's working for you. The developer's working for you. And you get to look up and go, I was part of that project and that project and that project. Maybe that one I owned, 2% of that project, but now I'm able to own 14% of that project. And, it's pretty cool. So, and that's not there's some offerings where you can, I remember the first time I threw in on one, it was like, it was years ago, but it was like a $30,000 buy. And I was like, I don't have $30,000. So I have two buddies and we're like, all right, I'll do 10, you do 10, you do 10. We'll create an LLC and we'll throw in. And, so there's creative ways to do that. And a lot of people do that, right? Because, if an offering, if the minimum buy-in is $100,000, not everybody has $100,000 cash, but you can probably find, three other friends and the four of you throw in and 25,000 each. And then you go, investor or some, so then you have that kind of that you're now not developing, but now you're kind of promoting, on a smaller scale. Anyway.
That's literally how 2D Investments was formed. Exactly what you're saying. I feel like everything you said just now, from the compounding aspect of these real estate offerings and how to build wealth and how it happens by continuing to reinvest. I mean, when I started laying out the metrics on what a $25,000 investment would look like in 10 years if invested right, and then looking at what my 401k or my stock, I was like, what am I doing? This is unreal. And also it's super slow at first, unfortunately, with real estate. It's not you're waiting multiple years for a project to turn over. But when it does, you're enjoying some cash flow along the way. And when it does, when you reinvest it, your cash flow grows times 2 usually. So it's pretty neat, way to invest.
For sure.
And to piggyback on what Doug was saying, people have different goals. And for instance, if somebody's goal is to make a lot of money in the next 12 months, this type of investment is probably not for them. But if it's some people want to grow wealth, and some people have a more short-term goal in mind, like sending kids to college. But if they've got 10 years and can do 2 or 3 projects over the 10 years and do tax-free exchange every time they reinvest, then they can grow wealth for college pretty quickly. And if it's retirement, they can do a 20, 30-year run and build a huge amount of wealth.
Right. Well, the beauty of that, right, if you're able to, in 10 years or 15 or whatever, you're able to, reinvest and reinvest and reinvest. By the time you get to that point where tuition's due, you might still own the asset and can just utilize cash flow from the asset to be paying
Good point.
tuition. And so really, if you have the ability to be positioned to get in those developments, and then you look at that compared to a traditional investment route, like it's really hard to not be excited about the real estate route, right? There's more risk, and we got to say that over and over again. There is more risk, and there are bad deals, and there are bad developers, but there's also risk in the market. I mean, I haven't looked at my retirement account in 12 months because I don't want to, so then there's that other aspect of it. Is like, if you can get to a certain level with your investments and you're creating cash flow, and then you still have the asset, that's where it's like really powerful, right? So anyway.
So we have people tuning in from all over the country, not just the Memphis area, and just thinking what knowledge or advice you might give them about how they can benefit their own community by investing, in what those parameters are.
Sure. That's a fair question. I mean, we've touched on a lot of it, and there's a lot of unique things about Memphis, but in the way that we approach our deals and the way that we um, approach our investments and brokerage, it's essentially the same, right? It's just on different scales and different opportunities and different submarkets. But I would just say to remember to be intentional about where you're investing and the investments and the developments that you're doing, and be intentional about how they're impacting the city, right? And is this whatever city you're in, is the deal that we're doing, the investment that we're doing, is it a one pop opportunity, or is this something that's going to be able to grow the community as a whole? Because ultimately that's going to make you more money in the long run too, right? If you're throwing up shoddy product, that's not going to help that area. And so, it's kind of a one and done. Whereas if you take that approach of wanting to better the community and better the city, well, then that's going to create more opportunity for you to continue to invest and develop. And so, I guess intentionality is what I would take from my long-winded answer. But if you're intentional about your investments, it's going to provide more opportunity and more ways to impact your community, your city, and make some money.
Super.
Yeah. So you just opened up a branch, Jones Hour, in Little Rock. What's the story there, and what direction are y'all taking it?
Sure. So we always knew when we started Jones Hour. Again, I talked about all the big companies that have a presence here, but are have HQ somewhere else. We always wanted to grow, but make it that we're a Memphis-based company. We are here. This is home, and we're going to replicate the systems that we've created here in other markets. But ultimately, we're homegrown here, right? And that opportunity just in itself is super, super exciting. And a good friend of ours, Jacob Spears, reached out a few months ago and said, I have some connections here, and I think you should talk to him. What do you think about opening up an Arkansas presence? And of course, we jumped at the opportunity, started these conversations, and our kind of in staying in theme, like our culture and our companies is extremely important to us, right? We all have the same mentality, the same mindset. The same service, service first, the money comes, right? And we wanted to make sure that wherever we expand, the team that we grew was in line with that, and they absolutely are. And so, twofold though, great team, could implement the systems, but we also wanted to make sure that we were going to a city and a community that can be reciprocal with Memphis. And so, how can by going there and being involved in deals and meeting investors there and retailers there, and manufacturers there, it opens up doors for Memphis, right? Because there's a great synergy, not just in proximity, being on I-40, but if you're successful in one market, you can absolutely be successful in the other, in a very similar methodology. And so, but also it allows us a platform for clients in Memphis to now expand their reach to other markets. And grow. So now, Memphis, even more so than just us, is growing their presence in other markets, which is really cool. So anyway, that's what excited us about the opportunity, and so far so good.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's very exciting. So,
yeah.
And y'all are doing more than it's more than just Little Rock Metro.
Yeah,
it is like y'all are doing Eastern Arkansas as well, correct?
We're doing the whole thing. I mean, El Dorado, Northwest Arkansas.
Oh wow.
The Little Rock MSA, obviously. I mean, everything.
Wow.
So
okay.
we're stretched. So we've already grown significantly. We started with 3. We're now at 6 in a week. So there's some great clients that have already come on board with us. And we think a lot more, in the next coming weeks. So we're just trying to wrap our arms around the whole mess. But it's fun.
That's exciting.
Yeah,
that's cool. Jonathan, so if people want to get in touch with you for your brokerage services, buying, selling, or if I'm leaving anything out, buying, selling,
Leasing,
commercial real estate, tell us how they can get in touch with you and all the regions you cover.
sure. Email, phone call, jaur@joneshour.com, JAUR@JONESAUR.com. My cell phone, 901-212-0457. We have a whole team we can support whatever you need in terms of our reach. Not just because we now have 2 offices, but because we're part of X Team, which is a national presence, a lot of boutique, locally owned brokerages, and we're spread out across the country. And our office specifically is Tennessee, Mississippi, and Arkansas, but we're doing deals in Savannah, Georgia, all the way to Oakland, California. So we can touch a lot of markets.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add that we hadn't covered?
No, I think we've covered a lot. I do appreciate y'all having me on the show. I'm excited to be with y'all.
Yeah.
You've been great. We appreciate it.
For sure.
Well, thank you, everyone, and good night, everyone. Thank you for attending our podcast.
All right. Thanks, Jonathan.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you for watching the Passive Income Power Podcast. We hope you gained wealth building insights. I will ask you to do 3 things to help us serve you best. Go to our website at 2dinvestments.com, click on Investors Club, and fill out the basic information to have timely access to new offerings. 2, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And 3, feel free to set up a call with Doug or Mickey through our website. We would love to help you find your personal superpower.